Hey guys, make a video about TCBP. I got my exact short pattern, but I ended up holding on to my long for too much. This is a weak market open long. Both, shout out to Mikey Underdog coming in the Discord and pointing this out. This was a great pre-market structure. So, yeah, longing in a market open and low floats is mostly about, I would say, three main factors, right? The first factor is market open volume. It's the most important factor. Volume determines pattern. Volume tells you about the potential of trades working. Um, so market open volume is always going to be most important. The second is the pre-market structure, right? So a lot of the best pre-market structures for market open longs are stocks that have, where's my brush? That have painted lower highs below high day. It's always really, really good. Uh, and also opening near the bottom of its range, right? Especially on any type of move that's like walked down. You can see how walked down this price action is. Now, if you could actually take a short on this, and you're in a much weaker market, this is actually a great short where there's not a lot of continuation. Um, this is really one of those things where market conditions. I'd say maybe that's the fourth factor is market conditions, right? Are crazy squeezes happening? Are we getting highs past the pre-market high? Are we getting highs past 10 o'clock, 10:30? What's the volatility looking like? What's the volume looking like? Are we seeing short squeezes, especially early in the day, right? So I would say that's the fourth factor. Well, this is the most important. So, a lot of times. And the other factor that's very important is the gapping percentage, right? It's very counterintuitive, but the lower the gapping percentage, the better this pattern works, right? You really don't want, if this structure was up 300% at market open, we're getting some crazy early pre-market parabolics, kind of like, for example, PIK today had an insane super early pre-market move. And at market open, it was still up 300%, even though, you say, well, isn't there some lower highs? Isn't it getting walked down and the volume is nice? Like, yeah, like maybe all those things are there, but I'm much more interested in the TCBB being up 50% in a market where things are squeezing 300%, right? Than in something like PIK that already did a 600% parabolic in the pre-market, and is still up, 250, 300% of market open, right? It's a lot less interesting for the long in the vast majority of situations than something like TCB where all the factors are kind of adding up, and then it's a matter of trying to get an entry. In which case we kind of use our knowledge of how low floats tend to shake people out and fake weakness, along with using bookmap, right? So this actually had a pretty decent bookmap signal. A lot of the best longs in low float land tend to be after knives. Like it's very common for a long entry signal to be some like aggressive move where it looks like you're gonna miss the move. It gives like a big knife, usually because that move has very little bids, right? We have some type of push with minimal bid follow up, some type of knife, right? Sometimes the knife moves like a 5 to 10% red candle. Sometimes it swipes key support levels, and then you get some type of bid stacking, bid follow up, some type of rotation, um, and then a push, right? So that's really what we want to see in the book. And we got that here. I sold a little bit on this push just in case I was wrong. A lot of times on my longs, if I get the first leg up from my entry, with the first leg up being past this little knife, this little wick right here at 933, I was about 10% in the money. I'm like, let me just take a tiny bit off. I'll show you what I was risking. There's a bunch of bids on the book down at the 1 minute 50. I love to see bids line up with key MAs that I think are strong and should hold, right? Like if this pattern's going to work, I expect these MAs, a lot of times it's like the 1 minute 20, 1 minute 50. I expect them to hold, and I expect there to be bids there on the book. And then if it pulls down those bids, I expect those bids to hold, right? So this is the type of thing that will help you, you know. I was holding here. I was able to get some sales here, and then I made the mistake of holding through my fake 5 minute flag pattern, where it clean soak off the 1 minute 50, and then this wick swiped these lower highs and pulled. Just missed it. And then I just got out on the support crack. So I was only holding like 20%, but I should have sold. I'll tell you, I should have sold everything here when the 1 minute 20 broke. This is where, because this was following the 1 minute 20 super clean like this. Um, and then I should have got prepared for the short, right? And this was, I've been complaining. I'm like, man, I'm not getting any of my short signals, and then on a play I get a short signal. I'm still long and I'm not in it. So anyway, we'll go over some of the, we'll go over the thicker swim chart really fast. Right, we could see pre-market highs, we see lower highs, we see more lower highs. Oh, and this is also nice. The 1 minute 200 was acting as support. 1 minute 200, just like PBM on Friday, right? This long. Same, you don't need the 1 minute 200 for a market open long, but it is nice when it's there and it lines up with other things we know about uh, this pattern. So I love that the 1 minute 200 is holding. If this had a big knife straight through like 1.5s, I would have, unless it had some like quick reclaim and bid follow up, I probably would have just passed on this. But I saw it holding, which is really nice. And then it started pushing, and I didn't get in because I was looking at the market open volume, and the market open volume at the time was only like 300, 200, 300K, which I thought was okay. But I was like, man, if this was a lot bigger, like if this was like 500K, 700K, I probably would have run in, right at 931, 932. I probably would have tried to get in on some, type of bid read on the book. But if we actually see here, it went from like 1.5 all the way to almost 1.8 up here. And there's no bid following this up. So it's very common when the rigger is initiating the stock, there'll be an initial push. We'll see this all in the book. We get a big knife, it knifed all the way back down to here because there's no bid follow up, and then they started throwing up some bids here on the 1 minute 200 and here. So I longed a little bit right away, and we'll see that here, and then I longed a little bit more. So here's market open. I already see a bunch of bids at the 1 minute 200, which is great. And the ass doesn't look too heavy to the upside, so this is already a bullish book. And it's lining up with other things I've seen on the chart. Here's that initial push, right? Very common for them to throw up a bid and then pull the bid at the top of the bush. Now, that is, in the right context, that could be a great short signal. In this context, I would not be shorting at 1.7 down here. There's too many other bullish factors from the pre-market. But we see the first pullback, and this is where I took a little bit long because I already saw them stacking a new bid. And I just know from low floats that a lot of the best long signals come after knives, right? It's a knife into a bid, right? Those are like quick dumps in the bids or like big wick candles in the bids. Can be nice. Then if we actually zoom in a little more, we'll see that we had some more bids and more bids follow this up. And this is where I added to my long, and then we had even more. Problem is these asks are so big up here, it kind of messes up the coloring. But if you go like this, you can actually see bid follow up. And if we go to the book, now that I'm long and I'm logging this candle and this candle, and I got the initial move, I de-risked a little bit up here. But if we zoom out, I'm seeing the 1 minute 50 right here. This is kind of like, my, the 1 minute 200 would be my final line in the sand, but this is what I'm, because I see the volume coming in. Like, this is very bullish, guys. When it goes from like 300K, this knife candle that I longed was 500K, and now we're getting 800K, 600. We're getting increasing volume down here. It's really nice. It's really nice to see. And not only that, on this pullback here to the 1 minute 50, what's nice, and I pointed this out in the Discord, what's nice about that is that's another painted lower high. So we got lower high, got painted lower highs, and there's a bunch of bids right here on the 1-minute 50. So I'm ultimately looking at those bids to hold if this market open long is going to work. Um, and I swear, I told my Discord, I'm like, yeah, I'm looking at those bids. And then, like, maybe 10 seconds later, this massive 3 million volume green candle happens. And I just have a habit of taking some off when it breaks high day just because it's a key liquidity target. But then it uphalted on massive volume. And I thought this could be really strong. And then in terms of like holding, we've seen this over and over again on really strong stocks in this market where you get like an initial parabolic short squeeze, kind of squeezing out the pre-market shorts and the market open shorts, right? And then you get this massive dump, and when it walked in this green line, it's the 1-minute 20. And this is the same thing, guys. I point this out in my Discord. I'm like, they're walking it down to the 1-minute 20. 1-minute 20 is right here. Is this green line? This is a walk down where they just this is a what is this 25% pullback straight down. It's a short. It's with the amount of volume it's trading in the market we're in. A lot of these aggressive pullbacks, whether it's usually to the 1-minute 20, 1-minute 50, very rare. Sometimes it's VWAP, sometimes it's 1-minute 9. I would say the 1-minute 20, 1-minute 50 are the most common. And yeah, it could wick like this. Wicking's fine. The concept is that they're pulling it back down. Also, a lot of my long friends would say that it's pulling back down to this pre-market high. This is what they would call a pivot. It's pivoting off it. You can see it's starting to wick off of these highs. A lot of my long friends would consider that bullish. I think that's a good thing I consider. I mean, it's not the main thing I'm looking at, but it's you need all the confluence you can get, and it's doing a pattern that I expect to be strong. And then that's why I learned in this market, a lot of times on these aggressive rotations, I used to just blindly short into these, like, put these aggressive moves towards high day, right? I would look at this lower high at 2.58 and just insta short in the 260s, and I would hope it worked. But I realized that in this market conditions, with this type of volume on this type of play, a lot of times these deep pullbacks are just squeezing straight to new highs, right? Then here's the fake 5-minute flag pattern. So I will say, on my Patreon, which is how you join my Discord, by the way, I do these weekly Sunday review sessions where it's about an hour-long video where I go a lot more in depth on all the different plays for that week, and I kind of talk about the market, talk about bearish and bullish factors, what are the major lessons you need to remember, that type of stuff. And, a pattern that we saw last week and it continued today in TCBP, and also I guess SCI also fits this too, where they were doing these, there was a lot of plays, PBM falls into this, where they do this, high day push, they swipe high day like this is the first swipe 3-4 times, and then it just goes into a big, relatively down-only fade. Now, this actually gave a little nice long trap pattern right here. This was actually extremely nice. But if you go back to PBN from from Friday, we see the same thing. This is the first squeeze, second squeeze, third, fourth. This is kind of like, depends on how you want to count it. And then, big down-only fade. So we're getting swipes, 3-4 swipes, and then massive selling, right? And I should have remembered that. I even said in my Patreon video, I'm like, I really need to adjust to what the market is telling me short side, because it's telling me that after these higher low, high day swipes happen, on these strong names in the morning, they've just been fading so hard. These massive fades. And I'm missing it. I'm catching longs on a lot of them, but what I needed to do was once you see the 1-minute 20 getting broken on this candle. I saw this candle, and I was like, oh, I'll hold through the 1-minute 50, and maybe it rotates back up to 3, then I can maybe make some type of decision. And then I just missed the short. I didn't want to chase. And then once it started breaking through VWAP, I just got out, and I'm just like, man, that was actually a really nice play, and I didn't hit the 2.5 little squeeze here, and then it faded. So, yeah, that is the trade. Great weak market open long pattern. Good market for it. Was only gapped up 50%. Painted lower highs. 1 minute 200 support. Nice volume, especially once this volume came in. This volume was okay. Wasn't the worst. Once this volume came in, and then the classic low float, uh, 25-cent knife into bids that ends up rotating and squeezing up, straight up. This is just a low float long. That's just how low float longs work, especially near market open and in the pre-market. So, um, anyways, that's the vid today. TCBP. We had some great moments. SCI, some random other comments. A lot of times, intraday runners, Scott, runners are the best longs. A lot of these stocks that just, you know, start generating, consistent increasing volume like this are and look at the same stuff. 1 minute 20 pullback, 1 minute 20 pullback. Sadly, I saw this way too late, and then when I pulled it up, this green candle was in the process of pushing, and I'm like, this was a insanely nice book. This had a perfect. Let's see if I can find it. It was literally a perfect book. But just like anything else, if you're longing something at the top like this, so here's the 1 minute 20 on STI, and right before they pushed it, they put bid here, and they put 3 follow-up bids, and they just squeezed it. Only thing I know about that though is what do you call it? When you long at the top, that's what I call longing at the top. You got to be really careful. You often have to take instant profits into the high day squeeze. And then if there's bid follow up, you could hold a little bit more. But if those bids start to break, then you need to get out because your average is all the way up here, right? So take the money when you can. If bids are there, you keep holding. If no bids are there, definitely take even more money or even all your money. And there is a certain art to like. Sometimes there's no bid on the initial push, but then bids come in later over. In this case, there were bidders. They just got sold through. And that's what happened with STI. So, but yeah, anyway, still a lot of strength in the market. No midday runners, so maybe the crazy midday afternoon runners are cooling down a bit. Maybe we can expect a little bit more weakness. We had all these crazy early I'm never awake for these, so I can't even comment on this. This was a great short, actually. I was so focused on PCB, and also I was long something else that I made a tiny bit of money on, but ended up not really working. But this was a perfect clear out, both in structure, how painted this 10.2 level was, and this is a classic short. They had this big wick, hyper aggressive move, and they pull it. And yeah, you could see they had. Whenever you get these like backside clear outs, on like whenever you have a painted level, like this 10.2 level at market open, a lot of times what they do is they'll paint the level, they stack a bunch of ask, and it's the same thing. They eat through all the ask with no bid follow up. It gets these things can be lightning quick. This is like my AIMD short that I covered. They just get above that 10.2 level, and look, it's up here for like, let's see, 8:52.00, 3 seconds, and then over here that's 8 seconds. So it went from 10:20 break to the 9:50 break was 8 seconds. So this is 8 seconds, and something like, I made a lot. I grew my account early in my career just anticipating these and literally shorting as it broke. I would short into this push here. Not a bad idea. And some people in my room got that short. So, and yeah, this was nice. Also, if you zoom out, some painted higher lows, higher low here, higher low here, higher low here, massive crack. Super nice. Painted higher lows is bearish. And a stock opening up, 300% is also bearish. Even though it, is quote unquote walked down, but again, the gapping percentage, I would never think of trying to long this at market open for sure. So, anyways, that's the video for today. Information up below about the Discord, and you guys have a good one. See ya.